Investing in altcoins can make you a lot of money, but only if you know when to buy and when to sell. The question you should be asking now is obviously when to buy. When is the right time to accumulate those next 100x coins and tokens before the bull run begins?
U ovom videu Mike, poznatiji kao The Guy iz Coin Bureau tima, govori o nekoliko kvalitetnih parametara koji pokazuju na osnovu prošlosti da li je sada pravo vreme za kupovinu altcoina, kao i koliki porasti se mogu očekivati u bull marketu koji slijedi. Zato pogledajte video do kraja, zapratite našu stranicu za još videa i saznajte nešto novo danas.
Ovaj video sponzorisan je od strane BingX Menjačnice, na kojoj se može trgovati sa preko 500 različitih kriptovaluta, a na kojoj nije potrebno odraditi KYC. Link sa velikim brojem poklona pri registraciji nalazi se u opisu ovog videa.
Knowing when to accumulate altcoins ultimately comes down to where we are in the crypto market cycle. As most of you will know, crypto follows a 4-year cycle that's believed to be driven by the Bitcoin halving, which happens every 4 years. If you know this, prove it by smashing that like button. Now, the last Bitcoin halving happened in May 2020, and in the year and a half that followed, BTC went up by around 7x, ETH went up by more than 20x, and hundreds of altcoins like ADA went up by 100x or more. In case you didn't know, the next Bitcoin halving will happen in April next year. Before you run off and start filling up your altcoin bags, though, there are 4 things you need to keep in mind. The first is that not every crypto cycle is so clear-cut. Some cycles have been slightly longer, and others have been slightly shorter. As you may have heard, the current crypto bear market has been abnormally long. It's primarily because of crypto's correlation to macro factors. In other words, it's because bigger investors are more involved in crypto, and this is making its price action mirror that of other large asset classes, namely tech stocks. The problem is that there are lots of bearish crypto factors that could likewise keep prices suppressed for the foreseeable future. Most of these have to do with regulations, which have made bigger investors uncomfortable investing in crypto. This would explain the recent lack of crypto and macro correlation. And folks, here is a pro tip. Make sure you have accounts on multiple crypto exchanges to ensure that you can always cash in or cash out. Now, this ties into the second thing you need to keep in mind before you accumulate altcoins, and that's Bitcoin and its relationship to alts. Although crypto as an asset class is considered to be risky, within crypto, BTC is seen as the safe haven asset. It's where the money moves when the market is crashing. There are also bullish reasons for money moving into BTC, though. As you might have guessed, one of these is the Bitcoin halving, which I'll remind you is coming sometime in April next year. Between now and then, investor interest in BTC will likely continue to increase. And some would say that is guaranteed, given that the final deadline for the SEC to decide about BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF application will be just before the Bitcoin halving. Naturally, what this means is that investor interest in altcoins will likely continue to decrease between now and the Bitcoin halving. Once the Bitcoin halving has happened, though, history suggests that BTC will start to pump. Eventually, this money will flow into altcoins as investors become more comfortable taking bigger risks in an already risky asset class. What's interesting is that this rotation into altcoins seems to require a catalyst. Now, if you were around in crypto in 2020, you might recall that the catalyst that caused money to flow out of BTC and into altcoins was decentralized finance, or DeFi. Assuming history repeats, then the next altcoin bull market will begin with a crypto niche blowing up in a good way. Now, there are many ways to assess where we are in the Bitcoin altcoin cycle. The easiest way is to look at Bitcoin dominance, the measure of how much of crypto's total market cap is just BTC. As you can see, Bitcoin dominance has been rising since last September and could rise as high as 56%. Now, another way to assess where we are in the Bitcoin altcoin cycle is to look at the ETH-BTC pair, ETH's value measured in BTC. You could say that ETH is the safe haven among altcoins and therefore serves as a simple proxy for how altcoins are doing. As you can see, it's not looking too good. If our measurements are correct, ETH could lose as much as 30% of its value against BTC in the coming months. The fact that our friend Benjamin Cowen sees the same thing suggests that our measurements aren't too far off. This could foreshadow a major shakeout among altcoins, at least in BTC terms. Now, this relates to the third thing you need to keep in mind before you accumulate altcoins, and that's that they're not all going to pump or dump at the same time. After the spotlight turns away from BTC, it will probably shine on ETH, given that it's the second largest crypto. After that, it's anyone's guess. Now, as I mentioned earlier, chances are that the first altcoins to pump will come from a specific crypto niche, like for instance GameFi or NFTs. Make no mistake, when the altcoins in this niche do pump, you will feel the FOMO. The initial inflows will be enormous relative to market cap, resulting in unprecedented gains for some folks. Instead of FOMOing into the latest VC narrative and getting wrecked, ask yourself this: what are the most speculative crypto niches of all, and which ones have the best fundamentals? The reason you want to ask both questions is because of the underlying macro factors that will be guiding the decisions of the biggest investors. Newsflash, but the biggest investors are the ones that will pump altcoins by 100x or more, not regular retail apes like you and me. From our perspective, the main macro factor that the biggest investors will be watching is interest rates. If interest rates are low, then the big investors will probably bet their money on the most speculative cryptos. If interest rates are high, they'll probably bet on the ones with the best fundamentals. Now, once upon a time, the most speculative cryptos were those that claimed to be the next Bitcoin. During the last cycle, the most speculative cryptos were those that claimed to be the next Ethereum. It's no coincidence that Ethereum killers like Avalanche saw some of the largest returns in percentage terms. So, this begs the question of what the most speculative cryptos will be during the next cycle. We can't say for sure, but we suspect the answer will be those so-called Solana killers, such as, for instance, Aptos. Now, I must stress that this is just our opinion and we might not be correct. So it's on you to figure out which crypto niche you think is the most speculative. Now, when it comes to the cryptos with the best fundamentals, fees and tokenomics are the name of the game. According to the Crypto Fees website, the cryptos which have generated the most fees over the last week are Ethereum and Bitcoin, followed by a bunch of DeFi protocols and select layer ones. This is where tokenomics come in. One of the advantages that Ethereum has over Bitcoin is that a portion of all ETH used to pay for fees is burned. As we've seen, this can make ETH deflationary at times, which has the practical effect of increasing its price. Less supply plus same or more demand equals prices rise. The catch is that Ethereum has a very large market cap, meaning that the fees and deflationary tokenomics aren't that significant relative to ETH's size. This doesn't mean that ETH won't pump. It just means that it will pump much less compared to a similar crypto with a much smaller market cap. DeFi protocols are a perfect example, and that's why we're bullish on them. This pertains to the fourth thing you need to keep in mind before accumulating altcoins, and that's how the next wave of crypto investors will approach the market. It's safe to assume that the next wave of big investors will stick to the largest cryptos because of their liquidity and market depth. Now, in theory, this means that the largest cryptos will pump the most. But if you think this, then you've already forgotten what I just said. In practice, it's the market cap that matters. The larger the market cap, the harder it is to push prices up or down. That means smaller gains and losses in percentage terms. This is something that the next wave of small investors probably won't understand. The previous cycle suggests they'll be aggressively accumulating cryptos with a low price tag regardless of the market cap, because they think they'll be billionaires if the price tag becomes as large as BTCs or ETHs. Now, not sure who needs to hear it, but Shiba Inu will never reach $1, because then it would have a market cap of $590 trillion, which is literally larger than any financial thing in existence, except maybe derivatives debt, which could be in the quadrillions. In any case, the result of this retail investor reality is that the market cap of some cryptos could rise to unreasonable levels, just like Shiba Inu and the other meme coins did in the last cycle. As such, you must take both the market cap and the sticker price of an altcoin into account before you accumulate. The only thing more important than market cap and sticker price is marketing, and the most important part of marketing is the narrative. There's no shortage of narratives in crypto, and they often coincide with the different crypto niches. It's too soon to say which narratives will be the dominant ones. If you look at the ones that pumped the most, you'll notice that they had a low sticker price, a small market cap, and fit the narrative. In sum then, don't ask yourself which altcoins you want to accumulate. Ask yourself which altcoins new investors will want to accumulate when the crypto bull market begins. Right then, you're probably wondering by now just how big the gains could be during the next crypto bull market. Well, the answer ultimately depends on which crypto we're talking about. By now, you'll know that the money will flow from BTC to ETH to the large caps and to others. So let's take it from the top. Obviously, there are many ways of measuring historical gains. The way we like to do it is to look at the previous zone of support and resistance for the entire cycle and compare it to the most recent top. In BTC's case, this zone was around 1K during the first cycle. BTC's top in 2017 was around 20K, so 20x. In the second cycle, BTC's key zone was around 10K. BTC's top in 2021 was 70K, so 7x. This suggests that BTC has diminishing returns over time, which makes sense considering that this is what happens to every asset as it matures. If we accept this premise, then BTC should see around a 3x gain between its current key zone and its next top. As far as we can tell, BTC's key zone is around 40K for this cycle. This actually makes sense considering that 40K is roughly what it will cost to mine BTC after the next halving. So, some quick maths tells you that this translates to a BTC price of roughly 120K, which is in line with many other predictions, granted that there's no shortage of those. Anyway, next up we have ETH, which is also seeing diminishing returns and seems to be following BTC, just one cycle behind. ETH's zone of support during the previous cycle was around $250, and its top in 2021 was around 5K. That's a 20x gain, and it foreshadows a 7x gain compared to its current zone. Similarly to BTC, ETH's zone for this cycle is around 2.5K, roughly 10x the zone of the previous cycle. Funnily enough, a 7x gain would translate to a 15K ETH top, which is also what many are predicting. What's fascinating is that the other large caps seem to be one cycle behind ETH, namely the so-called Ethereum killers. I'll use Cardano's ADA as an example here. ADA saw a 100x gain between its zone in the previous cycle and its top in the most recent cycle, from 3 cents to $3. ADA's zone for the current cycle seems to be around $1.20. So, if Cardano is following Ethereum, this means ADA could see a 20x gain between this key zone and its next top of around $24. That doesn't sound like much, but consider that ADA is currently worth 25 cents. That's almost 100x. Now, I know all this sounds amazing, but I must underscore the fact that these are just a few of many predictions out there. The fact of the matter is that nobody knows how high these cryptos could go, and it depends on factors that are fundamentally outside of our control, be they crypto or macro.